Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon. This back here, that's Bernard. He's my October co-host. He's missing a leg this year, but he doesn't let that slow him down. So we're just happy to have him here. Anyway, today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys. And today we're talking about The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. This is the third Lucy Foley book that I've read. I've also read The Guest List and The Paris Apartment. Both of those were fine. Not my favorites, but I enjoyed reading them. And I would have to say the same kind of goes for this one. So anyway, today we're doing this book talk style. So how that goes is I'll tell you a bit about the synopsis of it, and then we'll get into some spoilers. But before we do, I'll give you a warning so you can check on out if you don't want to hear them, if you haven't read it yet or whatever the case may be. So let's get on into it. This book follows a woman named, well, first of all, let me tell you this. As with all of the Lucy Foley books that I've read, there are so many different points of view. So many different points of view. This one, I think, has it reined in the most. The other two that I've read had way more points of view. But this one still has like a good 5, maybe. So there's a lot of flipping back and forth between the different characters. But anyway, the main gist of it is this. A woman named Francesca Meadows has come back to the town where she grew up because, or where she spent all of her summers, at her grandparents' estate, because she has inherited it and she wants to turn it into like a wellness retreat / hotel that's incredibly expensive and is for only the wealthy. She's married to this guy named Owen, who's also an architect, and he has like built this, renovated everything, gotten it ready for her, and opening weekend is coming up. And she is ready. It's going to be her moment. She is going to be the moment, and she can't wait for it. So everything's all ready to go. And we're kind of there for the build up to the day. From there's a ton of different points of view. Like I mentioned, we get a woman named Bella who has a secret. We don't at first, of course, know what it is, but we know that she also spent summers at this place with Francesca. There's a kid named Eddie who's going to be working there. There's Owen, the husband. There's a police officer eventually, because we go back and forth in time between leading up to opening weekend and then the aftermath of opening weekend. And that's pretty much it. Like, it's hard to talk too much about this book, I find, without saying too much, because, you know, I'm just trying to read the blurb here and see what it says. That's basically what the blurb says. So that's what we're set up with. From there, it becomes a cycling through the points of view to piece together all the pieces of the story and to find out who has died and what has happened. Another of the points of view we get is a diary, somebody's diary from back 15 years prior, when something terrible happened at this place. And yeah, that's the basic premise of it. I found it a bit slow at first. Like, it took a while for me to get into it, which I don't remember from the other two Lucy Foley books. But again, you know, there's a lot of like, we're coming here to do this in preparation for the weekend. Once the diary entries came into play, I got a little more, things seemed to pick up for me, and I was more invested. And then it's like, you know how they say the first half of a book is so much longer than the second half of a book? Very true for this one. Once I got to like the midway point, I flew through it. For me, I think it's gonna be like a 3 or a 4 star. Like, I had fun reading it. And that's about it. I don't know what else to tell you. So if you don't want any spoilers, now's the time to click away. So off you go. Me and Bernard will miss you, but we'll see you next time. So now that they're gone, let's get into it. But again, there's so many points of view. I would have to give you so much backstory that I think we're just going to make this a quick book talk. We're just kind of going to go through some of the spoiler points If you've read the book, you can chime in the comments down below what you thought of it. I feel like this one was a little cheesy at parts, and whenever it was very well planned. Like, there were so many intricate details that went into it, so I was really impressed by that. I was like, I know that takes so much work to be able to do that, and I think she did that really well. The writing's good, things like that. But the way the characters all tie in together, I don't even know how I could explain it to you. So basically it's this. Bella, the girl who also spent summers at this place, her real name's Allison. She's since changed it. Francesca knew her when they were kids, and she called her Sparrow. She's back because 15 years ago, something terrible happened. We don't quite know what it is at first, but we know that it happened. And she's dead set on getting justice, setting the record straight with Francesca. We know Francesca's involved in some bad way. And you get a bad vibe from Francesca right off the bat, even though she's constantly preaching about love and healing and all that stuff. It's incredibly phony. So once the journals kick in, we learn that, back 15 years ago, she met this kid. So there's this kid named Shrimp. It's a bunch of locals that are hanging out on the beach. This kid named Shrimp, they call him that. He's this poor kid, who later we learn grew up to be Owen. But Francesca doesn't know that he's this kid because she didn't really know the locals. She only knew the ones she plucked to be part of her life, which she always made them feel like that was such a gift to them. But of course, it isn't. It never is. It always goes poorly. So there's this kid Shrimp from the town who grows up to be now Owen. That's a big reveal at one point. Then there's this other kid, Jake, who Bella really liked. She had a big crush on him. And then we know something bad happened. And then eventually we learn that Eddie, the guy that works at the resort, that's his brother. And he's been missing for 15 years since they all knew each other. Then it's it seemed a little, I don't want to say convoluted, the way all these people end up back here together and they're all as different people, kind of, and don't remember each other. That seems weird. I don't know. And then, so on top of all that, aside from all this, there's something called the birds, which I kind of liked, I guess. And it was about, these, at first I thought it was actual birds, which I guess we're supposed to, but then we learned it's this group of, vigilantes that look over the town and take care of the townspeople and avenge them when needed, which we find out at the very end is actually a group of women from around the town. At first you think it's the older men, but then at the very end you find out it's the women, which I did like that. So then we learn about this woman named Cora, who we later find out, if you haven't read this book, none of this is going to make sense. I'm sorry. Normally I try to go point by point, but for this one, it would take too long. Even though the book's not that long, it's 350 pages and the print's pretty big, but it's so much. Anyway, so we meet this girl, Cora, who works at a pub, but you get the feeling that she's pretty young. You get the feeling she's older than these girls because, Bella, Sparrow, Allison, whatever you want to call her, is 16 in the flashbacks, and then I think Francesca's 18 maybe. So I was kind of thinking Cora would probably be 20. But so anyway, there's one night, because Francesca's always trying to just playing these games, these dangerous games. And one night, Cora, the girl that they're friends with, and she hangs out with them, she ends up working for the family, Francesca's family, but she hangs out with these teenagers. So anyway, one night she dies. She dies. Bella, Allison, Sparrow's we need to call an ambulance. Jake's there. He's yes. But then Francesca's grandfather comes and he's I'll take care of it. We're not calling the police. If you call the police, I will pin it on you guys because you guys are losers. You're locals. My family's not paying for this. My granddaughter's not going down for this. You guys look just as guilty, so I'll take care of it and you guys go. So after that, Jake becomes like addicted to heroin. It's a whole thing. His guilt eats him up until eventually his parents kick him out. He's gone for 15 years. Bella Allison Sparrow, she thinks he's dead. And it's a whole thing. Anyway, Cora dies. The grandfather covers it up. We learn on opening weekend, Owen/Shrimp is digging or I don't know how he finds it, but he comes across the body where the grandfather was like, I took care of it. Francesca thought that meant took care of it, but he just buried her on the property. So Owen/Shrimp finds this body and he's like, oh my God, that's my mother. And you're like, what do you mean your mother? Because he recognizes she's got a broken tooth. And he's like, that's my mother. We didn't know where she left. We thought she ran away. And so then I'm trying to do the math. And I'm like, okay, so if Cora was hanging out with these teenagers and her son, Shrimp, was also a teenager, he was on the younger side, 12 or 13, but still. If you've got a 12 or 13-year-old and you're hanging out with 16, 17, 18-year-olds in the evening, that's weird. Because because at one point it's mentioned that Cora had Shrimp when she was 16. So that's putting her at 28 or 29. And she's hanging out with these teenagers. That's weird. Anyway, she's dead. Owen finds her body. Owen's like, oh no, he's so upset, as she would, because he thought she ran off and abandoned him when she didn't. Anyway, so it's this whole thing. Opening night goes terribly. People die. The police officer that I mentioned earlier, who's now in the aftermath investigating, we find out that's Jake, Eddie's brother, who became the drug addict and ran away, who was, kind of with Bella Allison Sparrow when they were kids and they had a crush on each other. He's back, and there's a line when he finally sees his little brother Eddie again, he's like, that's right, it's me, your big brother, returned home. It was a bit of a cheesy line. Anyway, then the night comes, the end comes, and the end of the opening weekend, the place is on fire. And Francesca, she's getting away. She's in her vehicle and she's driving away. And Eddie's like, not on my watch. And so he starts chasing after her on his little bike. And she's high as a kite in this car because everybody at the party was. They were all spiked with something. And she's in the car. She thinks she sees stars on her lap, and she's tossing them in the air like she's out of it. And he's standing in the road in this bird costume because he found a bird costume at his house, which he thought was his dad's. So he thought his dad was in this bird group. But then it turned out it was his mom, which we later find out. So he's wearing this bird costume in the middle of the road. She slams on the brakes. She gets out of the car. She's terrified. She starts running. And then she just runs right off a cliff, dead. The more I'm talking about this, the more I'm thinking maybe it wasn't a 4-star. Maybe it was a 3-star. But there you have it. Prodigal son returned. Terrible woman dead. Shrimp's mother found. There you have it. So, that's going to do it for me for today. This book talk was a little more chaotic than they normally are, but I did not know how to tell you about this one. I just didn't. Anyway, that's The Midnight Feast. Like I said, it was fine. I enjoyed it. Talking about it out loud sounds a little wacky, but if you've liked Lucy Foley in the past, perhaps you'd like this. Before I came to film, I was scrolling through Goodreads and I saw some people who were like, never again, not reading Lucy Foley ever again, because they didn't like her past work and they didn't like this one either. And then I saw people who didn't like her past work but loved this one. And then I saw people who loved her past work but hated this one. So it's a mixed bag. So give it a try. See what you think. And let me know in the comments what you thought when you did. And if you made it this far, leave me a pumpkin emoji. Because Bernard, he loves seeing pumpkins, so I'll be sure to show it to him. And I'll see you guys again real soon. Bye.